welcome to the Olympian Effort on CNBC TV 18. The Olympics in London will be very different from the Olympics that were hosted by Beijing. For starters, the global economy is in worse shape, with even the emerging markets beginning to slow down. The Eurozone is battling financial crisis, and the jubilation that greeted London's Olympic bid win in 2005 has been replaced by a weary cynicism. In this scenario, sponsors who were always important have become critical. No wonder then that these games have put into place stringent rules to protect sponsor interests.
This superlative ad film that acknowledges parenting as an Olympian effort is simply the world's largest advertiser using the world's largest sporting event to reach out to its most important customer.
P&G, proud sponsor of Mums.
Here's the simple insight that inspired us. Now, at first glance, P&G and its brands may seem to have very little to do with the Olympics, except for this. Behind every winning athlete, there is an amazing mom.
Procter & Gamble began its Olympic campaign with the 2010 Vancouver Winter Olympics. Its family house, where athletes' families can watch the games, will be the hub of its Olympic activity. P&G signed up as an Olympic top partner in 2009, joining an exclusive list of 11 companies that are allowed to use the Olympic rings on their brand imagery around the world. The International Olympic Committee's The Olympic Partner or TOP program was started in 1985 after Los Angeles, which hosted the Summer Games in 1984, showed the way, getting a global deal with McDonald's and ending the Games with a $250 million profit. In its seventh cycle, the IOC has raised $957 million. Sponsors are expected to sign on for a minimum 4-year cycle, so that's 1 Winter Games and 1 Summer Games. While each sponsor deal is confidential, they all get worldwide marketing rights to the Olympics and category exclusivity. And while they build their own brands, what they do most effectively perhaps is build the Olympic brand.
The supply of live sporting events is very limited. You think about World Cup, you think about Olympics, you think about Formula One. It's very difficult to supply the demand that's there, and actually that demand for live events, if anything, is increasing over time.
Top sponsor GE that signed up with the IOC in 2005 is lighting all the Olympic venues and providing advanced medical equipment to the athletes' village. For the company, the Olympic partnership provides opportunities to build commercial relationships with the host city and other stakeholders, while also being a test bed and showcase for its technology.
One is the brand recognition. You know, we can go in, we can do advertising all the way up, we can do pre and post advertising recognition on that. And then it's a commercial deal. It really is. Are we making our numbers on the back of that? And so we are looking to sell as much stuff as possible.
Korean consumer electronics giant Samsung joined the TOP program in 1997 and began its sponsorship of the Torch Relay in 2004. While the company used its 2008 Beijing marketing effort to focus on the Chinese market, its plans for London 2012 are more global. Samsung set up its London 2012 office at Canary Wharf, overlooking the Olympic Park 2.5 years ago, and is using the first social media Olympics to promote its mobile platforms.
We want to say, even though at that time we very much focused on China, because at that time, again, sort of like a brand awareness point of view, brand preference point of view, we had this kind of different kind of phase. The first phase was sort of like to increase our brand awareness. The second phase was to increase our brand preference. But it's time to do something to be aspirational brand, we are thinking. And also this time, as I mentioned to you, this is a social media kind of Olympic. That means we are thinking our target is the world. We want to say not only UK, but also European, and also additionally to the world.
Despite all the brand and marketing action around the games, no branding is allowed anywhere inside the games venues or on the clothes that athletes wear. To make up for it, the IOC has always had strong restrictions in place to protect sponsors from ambush marketing. And on that front, London 2012 will be an inflection point. In addition to the IOC's rules, There's the London Olympic Games and Paralympic Games Act that was passed by the British Parliament in 2006 that put in place sweeping restrictions that will be policed by LOCOG. The restrictions affect non-sponsors, small and local businesses, athletes and even spectators. For example, people wanting tickets to Olympic events could only use Visa cards. Athletes can't tweet or post photographs with brand-related messages, and local businesses can't use any of the Olympic or London 2012 trademarks. And there's a list of restricted words and phrases that only official sponsors can use.
This is expected to be the toughest Olympic Games for non-sponsor marketers, isn't it? Because it seems the restrictions on what you can do is perhaps the toughest and the most clearly spelled out. In fact, there was an Act of Parliament, isn't it, passed in 2006 to protect sponsor interests.
I'm unashamed about this. It is very important that when companies, large or small, make a commitment to the Games, then it is the responsibility of the organising committee, it is the responsibility of the International Olympic Committee to protect them. They're making a big investment. These are not classic sponsorships. These are not just 1 or 2 year deals. These are world-class businesses helping us to deliver the Games, sometimes seconding world-class people into our organisation. They deserve protection. We could never have raised the kind of money we've raised if we hadn't made that environment a very safe and secure one for those companies that are prepared to commit to the Olympic movement.
While we do understand that you need sponsor money to stage these games, do you think that they're just going a bit too far in protecting those rights? Because come on, you know, little blackboards saying come watch the Olympics here, or little banners that small businesses or pubs put up can't be that much of a problem, can they?
Yeah, I think perhaps the media attention is disproportionate when it comes to dealing with local business and small traders. I think a lot has been made of what I would consider, without banging the drum for LOCOG, the education campaign that they've put in place. What they've been doing is, along the torch relay, they've been leafleting. They have actually gone face to face and said, would you mind removing that floral arrangement? But what they would say under the legislation is that these businesses are actually leveraging and using the attractive force of the Olympic rings or the Olympic movement and putting it at its highest. You know, why are those people putting an Olympic flower arrangement in the window? It's possibly to get the attraction and possibly get somebody in to buy something. I think they're fairly balanced, to be perfectly honest. I mean, nobody has been taken to court, as you probably appreciate over this. A lot of it is being dealt with face-to-face or in correspondence, in confidence. And let's face it, I mean, some of these small businesses, this is great oxygen for their own publicity, to be perfectly honest.
How seriously do sponsors expect LOCOG or organisers to go after infringement?
Yeah, I have to be perfectly honest. The short answer is no. There is an appetite that wanes in the wake of an event. Obviously, it costs a lot of money just to resource LOCOG, and on the legal side particularly. And although they might bring action to police during games time, infringements or people that they've been going after during games time, very rarely is their appetite to see a case through to trial or get an ultimate determination post a tournament or an event. And that's been the case even with the Bavaria Beer Girls.
While the IOC and LOCOG go all out to police and protect sponsor rights, there's little they can do about the negative attention that such prominent sponsorship brings. For instance, there was a public outcry and even a protest by the Indian government against Dow Chemicals, a top sponsor, because it now owns Union Carbide that was responsible for the Bhopal gas tragedy. And then there's American fast food giant McDonald's, whose association with the Olympics goes back to 1964.
In London, doctors and a group of doctors or an association of doctors is criticizing the games for allowing companies like McDonald's to be sponsors. Does that have a negative impact, and how do you evaluate and counter the impact?
I think our focus as a responsible business is actually what's our responsibility to our customers and our people every day of the year. It's not just about the Olympic Games, and so therefore we've been making significant efforts over many years actually to make sure that we offer a broader choice on our menu, to reformulate our menu to some of our most popular menu items, you know, to lower the fat, salt and sugar, to provide information in ways that's really, you know, appropriate and useful and friendly for our customers. So choice, reformulation and good information and good transparency is part of the way that we work anyway, day in, day out. The Games brings a little bit of extra attention to that, and we are understandably ready for that. But it's up to us to explain what we are doing, to make sure that we go and meet people, that we don't sort of, you know, disappear off and hide in a corner, because at the end of the day we're a responsible business, and that happens every day of the year rather than just at Olympics time.
Somehow we've come to believe that greatness is reserved for the chosen few, for the superstars. The truth is, greatness is for all of us.
What also happens all year round are big rivalries that play out in the marketplace. Hours before the opening ceremony got underway, Nike, the world's largest sports goods maker, unleashed its brand new campaign.
Because greatness is not in one special place.
Using the Olympics without using the Olympics, and using London without using London.
Greatness is wherever somebody is trying to find it.
Some global top sponsors like Samsung, whose sponsorship commitment ends with the 2014 Winter Olympics in Russia, will be evaluating the return on investment from their sponsorship after these games and before they decide on whether or not they want to commit to Rio. Ahead on the show, what the local sponsors are expecting from London 2012.
We signed the broadest ever set of sponsorship rights in Adidas's Olympic history.
Welcome back. You're watching the Olympian Effort. For companies that have invested hundreds of millions of pounds for the privilege of associating with the Olympics, getting the maximum bang for their buck requires effort of Olympic proportions. Locogo, the London Games organisers, has managed to raise about £700 million from 30 sponsors, from German sporting goods maker Adidas to iconic British brand Cadbury to steel giant ArcelorMittal. Here's what these companies are expecting.
The shoes Jesse Owens wore en route to 4 gold medals in 1936. The swimsuit that helped Aussie icon Ian Thorpe scorch the pool in 2000. Adidas has had its share of glorious Olympic moments. The only Tier 1 sponsor to have also been involved with the Beijing Games, Adidas has spent close to £79 million to continue its association. The German sports goods maker is also the official kit supplier to the home team, Team GB, and has built its core ad campaign on the back of British athletes like diver Tom Daley and track and field star Jessica Ennis.
We signed the broadest ever set of sponsorship rights in Adidas's Olympic history. We are responsible for licensing rights that cover both branded sportswear and event branded sportswear. That's very comprehensive. We have exclusivity over certain London 2012 marks in the apparel category, such as the pictograms. We have exclusive distribution rights in certain distribution channels, and it rolls from there.
Adidas, which has a 15% share of the ultra-competitive sportswear segment in the UK, is hoping the Games will help it overtake rival and current market leader Nike, which has an 18% market share. Beside the Olympians, it's using footballer David Beckham for events and promotions around the Games. But it knows the most critical moments are when participating athletes reach the podium. It's here where the penny really drops. While Rule 40 of the Olympic Charter bans athletes from appearing in advertising that clashes with official sponsors throughout the duration of the Games, what athletes wear when they get their medals become part of the iconic images beamed to a global audience and media. And here, there's always scope for doubt. For instance, what if an athlete from Team GB, whose official sponsor is Adidas, but endorses Nike personally, slips on Nike gear?
Well, it's not the responsibility of Adidas to find a resolution.
Yeah.
There is the responsibility, and this is a global position from Adidas, is the responsibility to ensure compliance is down to the rights. Over the rights is down to the local Olympic committees. and it's up to the local Olympic committees to decide what they want to do with their athletes.
The second tier of London 2012 local sponsors, called official supporters, includes iconic British brand Cadbury. The company, which signed on in May 2008, has spent around £50 million on its sponsorship. And despite the controversy and management churn caused by the prolonged £10.2 billion takeover by American giant Kraft Foods, the maker of iconic confectionery like Dairy Milk has had a comprehensive activation plan in place for the Olympics.
For us, this was a 2-year campaign, and the important thing again was not to think about it in the context of rights and what marketing you would leverage on top of it, but to think about what it could do for your whole business, which is why we split it into 4 areas, not just consumers, but our customers, our colleagues and our communities. So over the period of about 2.5 years, we've invested across all of those areas in order to make sure that we came out of it a much stronger business. And a great proof point would be our business is currently growing at 6.8%, that's our chocolate business. The market is growing at half that rate. So we're driving category growth by what we're doing.
Cadbury's activation for London 2012 include consumer promotions that give away tickets to watch games events. After the opening ceremony, the action will switch to Cadbury House at Hyde Park. All this in addition to its role as official treat provider to London 2012. That means that at all games venues, the only confectionery brand sold will have to be Cadbury.
If you're a supplier to the games, then it's a very straightforward business case because you look at how much you can sell to the organising committee, what the return is on that and how much you might pay for it. For someone like us, you have to think about what the games is in much bigger terms than just the sport it delivers or what you might supply to the games. When I can tell you that our business is growing at twice the rate the market is growing, I can tell you that people's propensity to purchase who know about our campaigns is between 9 and 13% higher than people who don't know about our campaign. I can tell you our brand health, has, for those people who know about our campaign, is 5 percentage points higher in terms of brand engagement than those who don't. I think those kind of numbers help you understand how it's working for us.
While Cadbury is using the games to build consumer engagement, Luxembourg-headquartered steelmaker, the largest in the world, ArcelorMittal, has a more personal involvement with London 2012. The company's chairman, Lakshmi Mittal, Britain's richest man, is a long-term resident of the city. A chance meeting with London's mayor Boris Johnson saw him agree to fund the ArcelorMittal Orbit. The 115-meter-high steel tower in Olympic Park has an observation deck at the top which people will need to buy tickets to access. And while those collections will be used by the city, the design of the orbit has caused some heartburn with the British public. They will have to live with it as a permanent London landmark and symbol of the city's third tryst with the Olympics.
What do you make of the negative views? Because, you know, people have criticized the way it looks and it might just be a matter of getting used to it. So how do you deal with that kind of conversation?
I think we always refer back to the Eiffel Tower, actually, because there's a history of so many sculptures or buildings or pieces of art being created, which actually the public didn't like very much when they were first created. The Eiffel Tower is obviously a key one, and we now know obviously that's much loved around the world. We accept that I think art is not art unless it provokes a response and a viewpoint, and we want people to have a viewpoint, and we completely recognize that that reaction and that response to the orbit is based on your own individual response to the structure.
We are a business-to-business company, so you can't go into a shop and buy some of our steel. But still we are a very, very large steel company and an important one, so we'd like recognition of that. We think that would be helpful to us. And on top of that, reputation. You know, I think a positive reputation can make a difference to business success. So obviously we're looking for that as well.
The third tier of local sponsors includes 17 official suppliers and providers who have each spent £15 million to associate with London 2012. Among them, surprisingly, advertising agency McCann World Group, the first time an ad agency has sponsored the games, and CBS Outdoor. The media company says these are the first public transport games and is estimating over 10 million visitors during the Olympics.
We've seen a 50% uplift in overall revenue for this period. We've seen a 185% uplift in special advertising, both for sponsors and non-sponsors, so people buy in those station dominations. And digital's about 150% up, digital advertising on the London Underground. So we're expecting to be more sold than ever before, and I would expect to see the majority of that space outside of vicinity taken by a mix of sponsors, but also a big brand mix of non-sponsors.
World Group has redefined the core narrative and the strategy for London 2012 in the lead up from 2009 to the Games. We've created the ticketing campaigns, so it will be the most successful ticketing campaign in history. They've sold more tickets than any other Olympic and Paralympic Games in history. We've created the whole concept of a games maker for a volunteer program, as I say, the core narrative. When you go around the city and you look at the stadium or the tickets or people's campaigns, the look of London, the look of the Games has all been created by Future Brand, which is part of McCann World Group.
All the sponsors will get some tickets that they will use to woo their customers and stakeholders. Sponsoring the Olympics is more than just about being able to afford it. It's about being able to invest twice, if not more, than the sponsorship amount to really make the original investment work. Putting the big team in place to handle the project, staying on the right side of the minute and intricate rules, and pacing the initiative just right can be an Olympian effort.
Along with athletes and their sporting achievements, brands will be hoping that they trend once the Games begin. With that, it's time to put the spotlight back where it belongs on sports stars from around the world. Here's to world records being broken, new stars being born, and inspiring stories that epitomize the Olympian effort.